I was born with a silver spoon, but then the spoon was forcefully collected.
Wow.
In as much as I was good at it, I still felt somewhat out of place. Now, this is the first time anybody will ever hear that.
Thank you.
In public. But I felt out of place because I felt I was designed for more and I could do more. If everybody was given the magic wand to go back and change things, in fact, I won't change things from my own time. I'll go back to maybe my grandfather's time and go and alter something so that they can have generational money, so that I can be the third generation to squander the money. So that's what I would have done too as well. I've moved for money. I've done all those things like that. They will say, it's comfortable. That's why I can say this thing. Yes. But truth of the matter is focus on value. Where is your most value addition?
Hello and welcome to my Innovation Story podcast, where you hear exclusive stories from innovators around the African continent. This podcast is brought to you by Magna Collective, and today we have an amazing guest, Babajide Duroshala. Now, for those who don't know, Babajide is a seasoned business executive with over a decade of experience in business operations, strategy, marketing, and community management. He currently leads Mkopa Nigeria as country director. And before he started this role, he was country director of Seboda, overseeing the entire growth strategy.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hope that was a good enough intro for you.
Precise, like my shirt.
We want to hear all about your story. We want to get to know, peel the layers, and actually get to know Babajide, the real Babajide, not the one on LinkedIn. The real one. So let's talk a little bit about your early days.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you grew up?
Yeah.
And then tell us a little bit about some of the inspirations you drew from that led to where you are today.
So it's very interesting because I grew up in a very interesting situation or circumstance.
Sure.
I was born with a silver spoon, but then the spoon was forcefully collected.
Wow.
But jokes apart, that was really my story. So I grew up in Okwebi, Ireland. So which meant I spent a lot of time around, people who were either middle class or well-to-do. But then you had all those struggles too as well. And I think that is the reason why I'm still very much conservative. You always either end up on one end of the spectrum, whether you're either flashy or you're conservative. And then I ended up on that conservative part. So yes, grew up in Okwebi, went to military school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How was that?
To CDSS. It was interesting. Very interesting. There was no way I was going to be a soldier. So that was it. Initially, I was primed to become a doctor. So that is a very interesting story. To my father, who owned a very big hospital at the time.
Oh, your dad is a doctor?
Yeah, he was a doctor. He's late now. And then, yes, I was being primed that they were like, oh, you read medicine, all those things. So from my formative years, they've been telling me you read medicine, all that. Now, my dad and my mom were separated. So that brought in a little interesting twist to the story. And then, at the time when I was about to go to university, my mother just came and said, nope, you're not reading medicine.
Really?
So imagine you being told you're going to be reading medicine from 10. And then you get to 16 and your mom is like, none of that. And I used to sometimes, on holidays, I'll go and stay with my dad in the hospital. They used to bring us around, all those. They had a weird dynamic too.
Naturally.
Yeah, they were the ones who found themselves. But, there was still that tension between them. And so I was then now told I couldn't read medicine. So I just looked at the next best thing, which was computer science and technology. And some of my friends were really going to go and study that in school. I looked through the, JAM brochure that time. I don't even think that kids of nowadays look at that. They don't have that book that
Crazy.
you flip to. And then, I ended up studying computer engineering in the university. Did that for 5 years. In my 4th year, that's when I realized that I didn't want to be a computer engineer.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, this thing is a waste of my time. But you kind of like need to just continue to like focus and put in the good grades to get to school.
Yeah.
I won't lie that there were some motivations from some uncles that said, if you finish with a 2-1, get a job in Shell.
Yeah.
I did not go and work in Shell. But we'll talk about where I went to. I will talk about where I went to after that. And so, read computer engineering, and I was really, really like, tired of it because it wasn't something I was very passionate about. I learned 5 programming languages. Many people are shocked when I say that, like, I learned 5 programming languages too. And so I went to university, finished through university. And then my mother, at that point in time, used her one connection she had to try and get me NYSC placement into Skybank. Then Skybank, for those who don't know, is an old generation bank. Doesn't exist anymore. And so, I knew that if I was going to Skybank, I was going into the IT department, and I didn't want to do IT. So I sat down at home. Trust African mothers, she had complained that, they've jazzed my son, they want to go and... But I kept on searching, and then I was lucky. So I got a break, and I got a job to become a data entry analyst in a local consulting firm called Phillips Consulting back then. And what was the job about? It meant that when the consultant went out, they bring all these business cards, and they needed someone to like transcribe the business card into like a digital form. So I used to, take the business card and then fill it into something called Microsoft Access back then. Like,
wow,
Access it doesn't exist anymore, but like, so I'll fill it in, populate all the names, title, company, address, phone number, email address, all those things like that, and just create a proper database so that like when the consultants needed like information from someone, they just come and meet me, and then I just pull it out from the database. So my table was stacked with like cards.
It's just business
cards. So I think that's part of the reasons why I don't have a business card today. PTSD.
I'm seeing so many cards.
I'm seeing so many business cards too as well. And I'm talking about cards in the hundreds because like, they were going out and meeting people every day. So that kind of like segued me into like the career that like I had. Like multiple things happened in the career. But that was my first real experience of like, working and starting to build out a career. So spent the next 3 months doing that, which was very interesting because one day I cannot forget, someone who was a senior consultant at the time. She was a practice lead at that point in time. Came to my desk one day and was like, "Hey, Babajide, I need you to come and do something." She's like, "Leave that nonsense you're doing and come." So apparently I've been doing nonsense for 3 months, but it was the best nonsense I've ever done in my life. And so, I followed her, and then she drafted me into my first project. And then after that, I didn't go back to business cards again. I just stayed on
the consulting side.
In the consulting side, doing projects. And I ended up doing that for like 4.5 years too. So,
So there are a couple of... Why I like this story is because there's so many different directions your path could have taken.
Very many.
One is medicine, which would have funneled you down a path for at least 8 years. Then there was also like just core IT, computer engineering. But there was a lot of intentionality around what you didn't want and what you did want, which is what I'm drawing away from this story. Where it's like, especially when it comes to your career, you kind of need to take ownership over what path you're going to take, right? But then, could you tell us, like, so for instance, I know Phillips Consulting, pretty good firm. Having done a couple of projects on the consulting side, how did you find your way into technology? Because you found your way back.
So like you did mention, like I've always known what I wanted from the get-go. Like whether it was like career-wise, whether it was, like personal-wise, up until the person who in fact I wanted to marry. Like it was very there was a model of an individual that like fit. And so I'd spent those years, and when you think about it, like medicine was the goal. And that was what I was doing. So my dad used to allow me come into like, his consulting room and I'll see him attend to patients. I used to have his stethoscope too as well. They bought like this toy microscope for me. So they have prepped me for that too. But I found myself in computer engineering and then I left that and found myself in consulting. So I've been used to switching a lot and, like changing career paths because before, I got into technology, I then left consulting and went into the bank.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I spent 3 years in the bank, working in the bank. So doing HR. So I started off as a HR business partner for the Enterprise Resource Group.
Oh, wow.
I moved from there into projects where I was doing like improvement projects for HR processes too as well. Just trying to improve like things around our recruitment process, our onboarding process, our performance management process, and our learning and development process. So those were the 4 work streams that I kind of like worked for. And we had like a lot of like, recommendations and everything like that. Whether they took it.
I mean, I have a question. First of all, was this guy bank?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
It was Access.
Oh, it was Access. Okay.
Yeah.
Why HR?
So one thing I really, really found was I was a people person. And so, because, when I was in consulting, you used to do 2 things. So I was in the human capital department, which was where the HR was. But then there were 2 aspects of it. So you could have gone into recruitment services, which was like the recruitment part of HR, of consulting. And then you could have gone into human capital, which is the part where it does all the HR transformation for organizations and things like that. I found that really boring because those were working with systems. I loved working with people. And so the natural inclination was to tilt towards recruitment services. So I went to recruitment services. Now, all the consultants then used to run away from recruitment services because they felt it was mundane and it was boring work. But here was me that I found it very interesting and exciting and I was very good at it. Like I was very good at like recruitment services. So for me, it just made sense to continue that part within the HR space. But in as much as I was good at it, I still felt somewhat out of place. Now, this is the first time anybody will ever hear that.
Thank you.
In public. But I felt out of place because I felt I was designed for more and I could do more too as well. Like it was great, but you see all these guys on the business side, they were making decisions that would, get the company to earn money and get us paid as consultants too as well. So and those guys were fascinating to me. But I didn't just move into the business. So I worked in, like HR within the bank for 3 years too as well. And then, there was someone who I used to mentor or we used to just have conversations. I used to help them on HR related stuff back then. And so we had done this for over a year. And one day she just reached out and said, hey, my company is looking for a recruitment manager. I know you're like very conversant and versatile in recruitment. Would you be interested? I'm like, sure. Me that I was ready to leave the bank because that was another environment that I did not.
I understand. Believe me. Believe me. I understand.
I did not fit in. You see me with my black t-shirt. Imagine like always being suited up.
Come on.
And so, like we went through this process, went through like the interviews, did all the case studies, spoke to the team. At that point in time, the company was Andela.
Okay.
And so, we'd done everything. It's been like a 3 months process and then they went quiet for a while. And so I'm wondering what's going on. I keep emailing them that like, hey guys, I've not heard back from you because at this point I was done with the bank and I really wanted to leave.
You wanted to?
Yeah, it was so bad that like I'd already written my resignation letter and printed it. The only thing that was missing was the date and signature. So like it was like written down there. Yeah, that was how out of place in the bank I felt.
Yeah.
And then, they reached back out and said, hey, we knew we're hiring for a recruitment manager, but we think we've changed the role description and recruitment manager is not what we're looking for. We're looking for something more community based, someone who can build like, developer communities, someone who can connect Andela to like the broader ecosystem too as well. And so they're like, oh, thank you for speaking to us. You're a very interesting character, yada, 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 all that stuff. And then, which was a rejection. So I remember like reading the email with my wife and telling her that like, hey, this is why it's always very important to marry right. Well, and I'm like, hey, this is what they said and everything like that. And she's like, okay, I know you really wanted this job. I'm sure you'll find what to do, or you know what to do about it. And so, I went on with my day that day, and I cannot forget, because it's a very interesting story, this part of it. And it's one of the pivotal moments in my life that I can really, really point to. So they've rejected me in the morning. The mail came in at 7 a.m. Yes, I even know the time. And this was 2016. So this is almost 10 years after. And I still know the time when the email came in.
That's crazy.
Too. And so at 6:20 p.m., I then now responded to them to say, thank you for this, email and the rejection, but I don't think we should stop the conversation here, because I understand this is the kind of person you're looking for. I can be that person. I studied computer engineering in school. I work with, graduate recruitment. So I know a lot of universities across from my talent acquisition days too as well. And, talking to universities, doing student programs, all those things is akin to building communities. And most of my friends who I went to school with, they are software developers today. So, they're in different communities that I can plug you guys to. So I think it'll be worthwhile giving me a chance to, interview for this role. 3 days later, they responded and they're like, oh, very interesting. I've never seen someone respond to a rejection email with why they are fit. He was going to be around in 2 weeks because the hiring manager didn't live here. He lived in Kenya. I should come by and, see him and all that. So I went by, saw him, we had 2 more rounds of interviews. And then on the final round of interview, I was walking home. I literally just left them and I was walking home because Andela was very close to my house. So it was a walking distance then. And then I had not even gotten to the bus stop before I was going to turn. And they called me and they're guys I really liked you and we're going to offer you the job. Really? So the offer letter came 2 days after. Now, I really wanted to leave the bank. So I was very frustrated. I remember anybody has printed their resignation.
You're on your way out.
They are on your way out is, when you are thinking about the resignation. You've printed it, your spirit has left. Your spirit is out. Gone. It's just your physical body too. So when they sent the offer letter, in fact, I didn't open it. I just opened the drawer, signed the letter, and went to go and submit it.
But it doesn't matter what's here.
It doesn't matter what's in there. It doesn't matter what's in there.
Wow.
Provided I am out.
Yeah.
And then that was how I joined Andela as the first ever community manager, helping them, figure out what that community practice was, and then also, building Andela's network within the developer ecosystem. And that was where, we came across programs like 4Loop. We had the, Andela Learning Community, all those things like that. And I spent 3 years just doing that day to day. And I was very happy. Now, it turns out that when I didn't open the offer letter, by the time I opened it, it was lesser than what I was earning. But I was more than happy to take it. Because at that point in time, so think about it, so I'm very good with finances and I'm very good with money. So I know how to drop a P&L. Now, I was taking an offer which was about 20% pay cut too. But I looked at it and I said, Andela was close to my house, so I didn't need a car. So it means fueling cost.
So out. Yeah.
I didn't need to wake up as early because I will have to wake up in the bank. You have to clock in by 8. And then you have to leave in the night because if your bosses don't leave, then
you're there.
There too as well. So that was that. There was the money spent. There was the time spent. Now, there were all the other things that people don't typically pay attention to. Suits are expensive. At that point in time, boys used to wear Thomas Pink and H&C to work.
God.
PTSD
just come back to my mind.
And it was white shirts, but they were all Thomas Pink, H&C, all those things like that. So that was a cost too as well that wasn't going to be there because Andela was more dressed down. It was jeans. It was so it meant that even the wardrobe cost was going out of it. So I did the P&L and I figured that what, I was going to be better. And guess what? I even saved more.
Really?
With a 20% pay cut than,
crazy though.
Yeah.
Wild.
It's wild.
Wow. So it's interesting because there's also another thing, the culture. We don't add, obviously, there's no P&L way of literally monetizing, okay, how much of an inflow to my pockets does the culture change actually, how does it affect you in that way? But I'm sure that, at least from your mental perspective.
So I can monetize it.
Oh,
Now,
really? Please tell me.
Yeah, that's the interesting part. So think about how cultures that are not repressive allows for innovation. Now, you earn a salary because you have a certain level of value that you're exchanging that the business is paying you for. So you bring value, then they pay you for that value. Now, imagine how cultures that allow you to express yourself, allow you to take risk, allow you to show a strong level of ownership. Those things start to build that skill set that allows you to trade the value for higher money. So for me, I just felt that like, those environments, because if I was going to, today I'm a general manager in a tech startup. Now people would look and say general manager in tech startup, do they really earn well? Okay. But I'm thinking about it that if I stayed in the bank, there was no way in hell I'll be a general manager today.
No, now. Maybe in 20 years.
Yeah. literally. Yeah. I'll probably be, like 48, 49 by the time I get to general manager. And that's after putting in a lot of hard work, like towing the line, being part of the cabal, all those things like that. Versus here where I became my first stint as a general manager or a country director was at 31. So like all those things are things that like while you say you can't put money value to it, you can look at the time. Like, if you are thinking about like from 31 to retirement, how much I'm able to amass at that level too as well. Like there's a money aspect to those culture things too as well.
I like that perspective actually. I really do actually. I was going to ask you if you, even though you didn't use computer engineering or computer science, if you could go back, you would change anything. But I don't know if you would have gotten the Andela role without it.
I don't. So now here's the interesting thing about me. I don't like if I go back, I can change things. I don't live like that. I don't think that way. I don't live in that place because, all the things, if everybody was given the magic wand to go back and change things, in fact, I won't change things from like, my own time. I'll go back to maybe my grandfather's time and go and alter something so that they can have generational money, so that I can be the third generation to squander it. So that's what I would have done too as well. But I'm the kind of person that like, if I make a decision, I'm okay to live with it. The goal about it is like, so far I know what my purpose is. So far I'm clear about where I want to go to. So far I'm clear about how I want to live. Whatever happened in the past happened in the past. It's like I can't influence it. Now I can influence the future. I can influence like how I will show up in the future based off of the learnings that I've seen and taken in the past. And a very good example is the Andela rejection email. Now people would think the story there is like, don't do rejection, like when they reject you, go and, say, that's not what I'm trying to tell people too as well, because there was also a divine aspect of that part that I have not spoken to many people about. And many people don't even know it too, because like I'm a very strong man of faith and I pray a lot and, I read the Bible a lot and I do those things that, many people will be like, are you sure? But so on the faith side of what had happened and transpired in that situation. And that's the reason why it would be very hard for someone to tell me that there is no God. Because like, remember I said pivotal moment. Now, every pivotal moment had a faith-based aspect of it. And, like there's the business part where we just tell you, this was what I saw and I made this decision and this is how it played out. But it's not really what really happens in my own story. So what had happened was, at that point in time, we'd been praying for a new job too. Now, there is something about disappointment that like, if I'm disappointed now, I'm even excited.
Really?
Why? Breakthrough is coming. So I am not fixated on the reason why I got disappointed. I'm like, okay, God, what are you trying to do with this situation? Because it had happened way too many times. Now, what really changed in how those things happened is my rate of response to those events, like how I responded. And it came with like more spiritual maturity that I started responding in the right way that God wanted me to respond. So when that entire thing, we've been praying, all those things like that, when that thing happened, the first thing when you are hit with a disappointment is to go and blame God and say, but God, I prayed for this thing, I begged, I fasted, I did all those things like that. Now, that's not the right thing that typically should happen. And I can tell people this because I can tell you like 4 instances in my life that happened. The first thing you do is you go and praise God.
Yeah.
You say, you know what, I thank you for whatever has happened in this situation.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what it is, but open my eyes to see what it is. And, like I'd gotten that rejection email and I was downcasted. I've written my resignation letter. In fact, I'd gone through the entire process. In fact, one part I didn't mention was that I knew the offer was coming from Mandela. Because at that point in time when I'd done the recruitment process, I'd come out tops. I'd spoken to people through the back channels that I knew, and they had told me that, yes, you are the one getting the job. Then imagine getting hit by an email to say that they've changed the role and they've changed all those things.
That'll pain you.
So it was very painful. Now, when I say all these things, because most of them, they are very spirit-led. Now, I didn't wake up to send that email. In fact, that's not the inclination I would do. In fact, if I experience something like that again, I'm not necessarily going to send an email.
Exactly.
But for that situation, the nudging on the spirit was that, like, you know what, send them an email and send this email like this. So there was clarity on how that email should have been structured. Now, I don't think I can orchestrate that thing again. And like I said, this is the first time a lot of people are going to hear it from this perspective that I'm talking. They know the story about it, but they don't know the underlying thing around it. And I think I've really done so many people a disservice without telling them the underlying truth around how that situation evolved to that point in time, because that was the biggest break of me getting into technology. I got into Andela at the time when a lot of people weren't into technology, so I was able to, build myself and get far ahead too as well. And so for me, like, it was a very important pivotal moment in the career that I have today.
First of all, thank you so much for adding this extra element, because apart from the fact that most people don't know, I really resonate strongly with the perspective of gratitude.
Yep.
So regardless of what happens.
Yeah.
And this is whether or not you're Christian. I think there are a lot of principles that exist in the world.
It's life principles.
And I genuinely believe gratitude is one of them.
Yep.
And it's funny because a lot of the guests that we've had on the podcast have actually I've offered advice from a spirit's perspective. We didn't have this conversation before this. We didn't have this conversation. I can tell you for free. We didn't talk about this.
Yeah, I know.
But it's I like that you added that layer, especially when you're thinking about how to handle rejection. So whenever I get either a big rejection or I'm very tempted about something, I believe that my breakthrough is around the corner.
Remember I said I've seen this 4 times.
Yeah.
So, and I can talk about the 4 times too as well, because even with the Andela story, it was great up until it wasn't great too. And you see, if you're a very perceptive person, when things happen to you, you would have seen it coming. Now, they don't wake up and just fire you. Like, you would have seen certain things in the office, like the people who were senior enough and who make those decisions. If they were friendly with you, you will notice a change in their countenance. They are either not looking at you in the eye anymore, or they are acting certain way. Maybe they used to hang out with you in the cafeteria, or you guys used to go for drinks, and all of a sudden, those things don't exist. So you see those kind of things. Now, for me, how I use my own spirituality and my work with God is for me to be able to understand those moves when they happen. Now, you don't know, you don't see it too as well. And the Andela story, it was great. We built this entire thing. And the reason why I even left Andela was because of a promotion. So I was supposed to get promoted, and then that didn't happen. Long story short, something had happened in between too, and it was more behavioral. Now, 2 things about it. Like, I would look at that moment and I would say that, I could have looked at the moment in 2 different ways. One was they are victimizing me, they don't like me, so that's the reason why they are.
Sure.
But in actual truth, what was happening was God was trying to tell me something. Now, what was he trying to tell me? I was going into a new level, and there were certain behaviors that I could not carry into that new level. Now, the only way you won't carry that behavior into that level is by something in the physical happening that ensures you do what? You shed off that behavior. So it was a promotion. In fact, like I said, my manager had told me she was going to promote me. She had told my colleagues they were going to promote me. Like people were sending me congratulations messages while I was at home.
Wow.
Only for me to come back and for her to tell me that, something had happened and I couldn't get promoted anymore. Now, you see, there are two ways where you can react to those situations. You get angry, you throw a tantrum, and you become bitter.
Yeah.
Or you can get angry, go to God, and ask him what next.
Yeah.
And so, thankfully, and this is why I say it's good to marry right, because once you have a partner that kind of like supports you in a certain way, you get the right environment to be able to think in the way I thought. And that was, I got angry, I went to God, and I said, God, I know I deserve this thing. Like, it was done. So how did it become this thing that...
Yeah.
And then it turned out that what had happened was, while I'm very performance driven, so from Access Bank, I learned about performance. So I've always been a above average performer in my entire career. Yeah. And so, you start to feel a lot larger than life. You start to feel invincible. Then you start to attribute that companies would not succeed if you were not there. Meanwhile, that's not true. Yeah. Like, it's not true.
Life goes on.
Life goes on, and they will be successful. And so you start to feel like you are the center and the world, and the sun revolves around you. Yeah. Now, I was going to go and do a lot more amazing things with my career. But if I had still had that attitude that the world revolved around me, that thing would have destroyed whatever I was going to go, because you become pompous, you become arrogant, you don't take feedback, and then what happens is you just jump into...
Nosedive from there.
Yeah, you nosedive. Yeah. And so what had happened was, they had said I was arrogant, and I lacked empathy and all those things like that. So it wasn't a business reason for me not getting promoted. It was a soft reason for me not getting promoted. That thing pained me to the core. That... you take that situation and you're like, God, see, this is where the problem is. Change me. Now, that change has happened over time. But guess what? In 3 months, I was out of Mandela. Really? And that was when I got my first ever country manager job. Okay. And it was from that situation whereby someone had watched what had happened. And the person said, I saw what happened to you. And the fact that you weren't upset, and you weren't angry, and you weren't throwing tantrums around, I think there's a role you might fit in. And so he sent me the safe border role. The safe border role.
Wow. So isn't it interesting? Oh, man. What's interesting to me is the juxtaposition around the fact that you didn't get promoted for an attitudinal problem, but you got the job because of an attitudinal factor, if you will, right? I want to kind of pause here to actually speak to some people navigating tricky situations in their career. What would you say to them around handling either... Two things actually come to mind. One, I've mentally checked out, but I still have to do this job. Yeah. And number two, I've been passed up for a promotion, and I still have to do this job. But I still have to do this job. What would you advise them in terms of navigating that?
The good thing is I've been in both. The straight up answer is, in both situations, you have to deliver value. Yeah. So it's not about the external, it's about you, because the delivering value is, remember what I talked about, skill, and we talked about culture. And I said, the more your skill gets better, the more you're able to command in the environment and workforce. Now, skill is almost like going to the gym. Like, you are going to the gym, working out, you're building the muscles and biceps. If you stop going to the gym for a very long time, you fall back down. You don't go back to this position you were in. You lose it. You lose it. And so is the same thing with skill. Like, if you don't continue to deliver value, you start to lose that edge or that sense of what used to give you that value. Now, I always tell people, never tie your value to monetary things. Tie it to your ability to deliver great and excellent work. Money follows excellence. Yeah. Whether people like it or not, money follows excellence.
Guys, write that down. Money follows excellence.
Money follows excellence. It's pure and simple. Yeah. And so if you keep delivering excellent work, even all the time when I hated my Access Bank job, I was still delivering the best that I could. Now, that best that I could at that point in time and who I am now, if I was going to do that same job, it would be totally different.
Yeah.
But then it's still that putting in that work and putting in that stress. The most important thing is that you realize the skill you get doesn't belong to the company. It belongs to you. So if you leave with the skill sets that you have. You're not dropping it. The only thing you drop is your laptop and your ID card and any other company property. But that skill, you don't drop it there. You own it because it's your own intellectual property.
Yeah.
So it might be a difficult and tough situation. In fact, what happens is when those situations are over, we are sitting down here and we are laughing at all these things. They weren't laughable situations.
There was nothing funny.
Nothing funny. In fact, there were tears that were shared. Imagine a grown man with all my hearing tears that were shared in those situations too as well. Yeah. And don't ever withdraw that value addition because you're feeling frustrated. Because you never know who is watching. Think about the person who reached out to me and said, I saw what happened. Now, this person was my colleague too as well, in the same office. And this person could have applied for that role, but they didn't. But they said, I saw what happened and I feel you were treated unfairly. So here is an opportunity you should try your hands on. And that was it. And the reason why that person did that was because they saw that after that disappointment, I was still doing my job. I was still, getting things done. I was still delivering value. In fact, I was still running at the same percentage because I am a 110% plus type of person in terms of like targets. I don't believe in 100%. I believe in 100 plus.
Let's do more.
We always do more. Too. And the person was like, you are doing this despite what happened. Check this opportunity out. And that's how I became a country director.
Man, you have an amazing story, bro. I'll be honest. Would you, as you're speaking, a thought came to my mind. You've been country director in 2 companies now, Safe Border and Mkapa.
Yep.
What skills do you think you had to leverage being a community leader to be effective as a country director?
Yeah. So, there are like some of the technical skills, more like marketing, operations, those things that are embedded in community management. But then there are the non-technical skills that actually really move the needle. So it's like your ability to problem solve, your ownership level, that kind of thing whereby you have something to do and you own it end to end. It's not that, Femi didn't do this right. So that's the reason why we couldn't get it. Because of you have the level of ownership, Femi is responsible. You are accountable for it. So you ensure that Femi does what he needs to do because the accountability stops on your table. So that ownership is very, very important. Getting people to a point of shared understanding. And for you to be able to get people to a point of shared understanding, I always tell people you cannot lead others if you can't lead self. So you need to be able to lead yourself first. You need to be able to understand who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, all those things like that. Now, I'm not a build your weaknesses guy. I don't, in fact, really? I know my weaknesses and I don't.
No, you can say it as it is, don't
I don't give a shit about my weaknesses. I'm like, they exist and they are there. And the energy and power it would require for me to develop those weaknesses, I can pour it into my strengths. So what I do is I'm aware of the weaknesses and what I do is I then now walk around the situations those weaknesses show. So that I know that, yes, this is a weakness of mine and this is how I will show up in this situation. So I will, for instance, I'm not very patient. And so I believe in excellence, and once things happen and they're not done in an excellent way, I get frustrated. So, but now I notice that that's a situation. So I find things to calm me down rather than throw that frustration. But I'm not going to look to say I want to be the most patient person. That will always be there because of the parts whereby some of those weaknesses, on the other side of it is the strength.
Where your strength lies.
Where my strength lies. So like I said, getting people to a point of shared understanding how to lead self before leading others, and then understanding how to lead from second chair. You find a lot of leaders competing with their direct reports. Let people take their shine to us. Like, if people do great work, be the one to sing their praise.
Yeah.
Like bubble them up, sponsor their careers too as well. Now, the thing many people do is they're like, well, if I'm saying this person is the one who is doing the great work, they will think I'm not very useful. That's not really true because, when you sit in a leadership position, your job is coaching, mentoring, and unblocking others.
Yeah.
So if someone on your team is shining, the reason is because you are either helping them, you are coaching them enough for them to do very well on their job, or you're unblocking them well enough. Now, if you start to have 2-3 star performers on your team, people who are senior already understand where that performance is coming from.
Exactly.
They're like, you know what, this is part of the mix. If we remove this person, that mix,
something goes wrong.
Something goes wrong. But you find many people, competing with their second line reports or their direct reports because, they feel like people need to know. Maybe because I'm a confident person, so I don't.
I was about to say,
I don't need to do that.
Yeah. So it's funny because I think insecurities are very loud.
Yep.
And I realized that, especially in the bank, by the way, a lot of people you find a lot of people who either want to downplay the impact or just completely take all the glory.
Yeah.
And it's really tied to some kind of insecurity. So as you were speaking, I could tell that, okay, you're generally a confident person. That's why you're able to give the glory to someone who has done the hard work. Because chances are they're the ones doing the footwork.
Yeah,
you want them encouraged. You want them happy.
Ah.
I want to talk about people a little bit because, and this is speaking to the business executives, the CEOs, founders, people who are navigating recruitment. I've realized two of the most important roles that are around being a leader or being a CEO is recruiting and selling.
Yep.
Two of the biggest factors. Everything else kind of falls on the side.
Falls on the side, yeah.
And I want to ask you a real question. What are some mistakes you found yourself make in your career?
Yeah.
Around either managing or hiring people that you think some of our listeners will benefit from?
Yeah, so I think the mistakes now is not even hiring because I used to be, or I am somewhat very good at hiring. Okay. So, you can get the right skill set, you can get people who understand you and all those things. I'm one person that I always say, you can teach skill, you can't teach attitude. So if the attitude doesn't match, I found out that every time that I needed to let someone go, I was 6 to 8 months late in the decision that I knew that I should have let the person go.
Yeah.
But I still held on to them because of its sentimental value or anything like that. Now I ended up making that decision and I ended up doing the same work that I was either kicking the can forward for. Yeah. So for me now, my turnaround time to letting people go is a lot
It's shorter.
It's shorter now because once I figure out that it doesn't work, I know. Now, if I figure that like this person is someone that we can work on, I'm a lot more patient with them. And I would go, do the entire mile, go through that too as well. Something that is very important that, many founders, CEOs, and business execs need to know is that while systems are great, it's people who build, maintain, improve, and destroy systems.
Yeah.
So the people are equally as important because the systems don't create themselves.
Yeah.
They don't improve themselves.
Yeah.
They don't, destroy themselves. It's people who come and chip away at the system or add to the system that brings those level of improvement. So hiring is extremely important. And then there are things around, like for me, there is the gut feel that I also do have. Maybe it was from my recruitment days and, doing a lot of interviews and all those things like that. But then there's also the gut feel whereby you're like, this person seems like it from 1 to 100, but there is something that is missing. So maybe there is, and I like to use analogies a lot. So 45 to 50 is missing. And what happens because 45 to 50 is missing is that when they enter a chaotic situation, which is typically how the work environment is like, those gaps start to show and every other thing they've built on that facade crumbles down. too as well. So I use something which is very interesting, which is like the levels of consciousness and the stages of evolution of human beings.
Interesting.
To understand, there are like 7 levels of consciousness.
Talk to us about that, please.
I'll send it to you. It's somewhat off Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it starts off with that, like, the 7 levels are, people start from survival to relationship level to, self-actualize, internal cohesion, like self-actualizing, to external cohesion, like, building, you're confident in who you are, then you start to build other people, to a life of like, you know what you want, you are who you are, nothing changes that. Then you look at service. So people who are like, I need to make my environment a better place. And then there's the 7th level, which is, like overall, which is I need to leave the world a better place than I met it. And so those are those 7 levels. And then you start to figure out where people are playing in, because it's not a function of whether they are bad people or all those things like that. Like, I don't stress about money a lot, because I realized I don't need too much to live comfortably. Like, I don't need too much to live comfortably, and I don't need too much to be happy. But then I really worry about, like, people who couldn't pay school fees, because I've been in those situations too as well. So I'm very big on school fees and very big on like helping people pay their school fees. Like, it's like clockwork, and I've been doing that since 2016 too. So for me, like, those are the things. So I put people on those different levels, and then I now start to say, okay, how is the enabling strategy? How can I help them? If someone is in a survival mode, how do you have to walk them through things like as if, their life depended on it. If they're in relationship mode, the validation of their bosses, their peers, is very important to them. If they're in self-actualization mode, they are very confident about themselves. So what you do is you spend time, building up their confidence. If they are at the point whereby they are at full self-confidence too as well, you then now start to stretch them to say, how can you make your environment better? So those are how the things that like you've used to
really like that. I'm going to take it. Please send me
I really send it to you.
That's
it's
amazing.
Like, it's a breath assessment. So
I really
which is
like
very
that.
interesting too.
Because you meet people where they are.
You meet them where they are.
There's a question we ask all our guests.
Sure.
And I'm looking forward to your perspective on this, because you've said a few things. The moment you've been sending replying the rejection email, and Andela, your decision to make a particular, to wear a particular hat when you didn't get the promotion, and a few other things. What has been the most pivotal moments of your innovation story so far?
Yeah, so I don't think it's one. Like the Andela one is a big pivot, but then there's still so much that happened to get me to where I am today. There is it's the pivotal moments are one at every job. So I've talked about the Andela one. I've talked about the Access Bank one to Andela. I've talked about the Andela to the Save Border one. In Save Border, the pivotal moment was like saying, we're not launching in Lagos, we're going to Ibadan. And we're going to go and start up business there too as well, which was crazy. In fact, people were saying, in fact, Tech Point, I'm still looking at you guys because of the article that you wrote. Like people were questioning the decision, thinking, do these guys know what they're doing? All those things like that. Now that one too was a divine moment too, but we'll talk about that in another podcast episode. And then the 4th one was last year, when, like at Copa, when I termed the year of Quantum Leap, too as well. And so those are like 4 pivotal moments that I was saying, like my career has really helped me. Another and the biggest pivotal moment was deciding to marry Cheryl.
Tell us about that, please.
Yeah,
I'm sure she'll be happy. I know you're listening.
She'll be very happy. I think that's the biggest pivotal moment in my life and my career, because you see, it's with this person that I've rejected a KPMG job and decided to join an Access Bank. It was this person that, when that thing happened with Andela, she's like, you will know what to do. All those words of encouragement and those words of support where you have like a proper partner. Like we do have more than like, the husband and wife. We have a friendship now because me and I we used to gist and chat that if our WhatsApp messages should leak,
big problem.
big problem too as well. She was the one who encouraged me to reject a 66% salary increase to stay at Save Border. I know, 66% salary increase to stay at Save Border.
That's not nothing, man.
That's not, and these are the things that, like, if you are stuck with the wrong partner, they see the money and they're like, you should take that role. And that role wasn't for me. And I felt it in my spirit. I felt it in my heart. And she could see the restlessness I was going through with like every offer that I'd ever had. I tell people, negotiate your offer, don't take the first offer, all those things like that. I've never obeyed any of those.
Really?
Yeah. I've never obeyed any of those things because, like, generally I can tell you that. Now, my offers are usually divine and the nudging is take it.
Yeah.
So it's never, so I don't negotiate. I always respond 5 minutes after the offer is sent to say, offer is accepted by me. Like, Save Border, M-Copper, Andela, Andela's one was Andela, even Access Bank too as well. And I'm thankful I went to Access Bank because it taught me a lot of things and I don't regret going there. If I could do it again, I'll go there again because I learned so many things from them.
I like that.
Too. So having that kind of partner, go there, like, supports me. When I said I was going to Ibadan, she's like, go, don't worry, I'll stay back and I'll hold the home front, like all those things, like,
that's big.
Like that. That's massive. It's massive.
With
yeah,
kids?
like with kids. Yeah. We had a son. The second one was, at least I had come back to Lagos when we had our second son. But like with kids, and J1 was still very, very little. So it was within his very formative years. And she held it down, ensured that the value systems that I really wanted my kids to have, she built those value systems in them too. So for me, I think that's my biggest.
I love that.
Yeah, that's my biggest one.
This reminds me of before I got married, I asked my dad, how do you know when
you are
the right person?
Yeah.
Right. And really good advice. He said, ignore everything that you like about her. If I list it out and then just ignore it. Focus on everything you don't like.
Can you live it?
And see, can you live with this for the rest of your life or not?
Exactly.
Fantastic advice.
Exactly. Great advice. I've been married 10 years, like, great advice. Because all the things you like will fade.
It will fade. They'll go.
And I got married at 27, so like it will fade.
Early.
Yeah, it was very early for a guy. Like, it was extremely early. So like I saw who I liked and I felt, I can build a future with this person.
Yeah.
And, she displayed all the right skill sets at that point in time. Now, I met this person when I was an analyst in Philips Consulting.
Yeah.
So all this entire career decision is with her. So I don't even know myself outside of,
That's very beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know myself in like, every big money decision I've made, every salary increase, doubling salary, all those things has been with her. So I don't even know what it means to like, not be with.
This is awesome. I swear to God. This is really awesome. Really awesome.
I know.
Okay, so let's come to the quick fire segments. Now, the quick fire segments is basically a way to get your first thoughts, first things that come to your mind. I'm going to ask you 3 questions.
Yep.
And all we need is for you to answer those questions as quickly as possible, right?
Sure.
You don't have more than 5 seconds to think about an answer.
Okay.
So, are you ready?
Yes.
I love that. So the first question is, what African problem are you most passionate about solving?
Credit.
Tell us more.
Credit. So, the developed economy and the developed world live on credit. Like, access to financial, credit, mortgages, car loans, normal bank loans, business loans, all those things like that. Now, when you look at Africa, to borrow money from a bank is war. So I'm very passionate about credit because I feel that is the only way we are actually going to improve our economy. Like, giving people, the money is not going to come from anywhere. Like, we've started seeing what is happening with the VC world. We've started seeing, how investments started to dry up. And a lot of businesses did not even really need VC money. What they needed was debt. They needed, funding that they could, loans they could pay back, build more, scale more, and things like that, and revolving credit. So I'm very passionate about credit.
I like that answer.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, by the way.
Yeah.
Second question. What's a misconception about African tech markets that you would like to debunk in 10 seconds?
That Africa is, informal.
Oh, wow, talk about that.
So Africa is more formal than you think. Now, we've taken the Western definition of formal, which is institutions. So you have your banks, you have all those things like that. But you find out that Africa's formalization has always been built on communities.
Okay.
So think about when you were growing up, you always had either an auntie or uncle. There was always someone you could run to, even when school fees was hard, that was in the extended family. That's community. Yeah. Now, even when you were growing up, there was one auntie or uncle on the street that looked out for you, that ensured that this. So even if you were home, your mom didn't need to get home before they told her that you've not come back from school. Yeah. Someone had told her. So it's like that formalization had always been in communities. And you find out that the biggest companies in the African ecosystem who have won are people who know how to play within those communities and build their businesses around that community. OPAs, money points, they've used agents and they've used communities of agents to spread M-Pesa, to spread financial inclusion around to as well. M-Copa, we can put that in.
I love it.
And so for me, it's around how do we start to take those community models and build it? Because what happens in the community model is, you and I belong in the community. A business is coming. They then now say, Babajide, you'll be a representative in this community. Yeah. So the brand trust that Babajide has is what that business leverages on to engage and interact with that community. Now, they can then now move people from offline to digital, all those things like that. But it's more around that entry point is that community of that individual. So that's the reason why in Africa, you see agent business is very prevalent, where you have agent banking, you have cash in, cash out options. There's a mom and pop shop that does, sales provision and does something with a tech company too as well. So for me, it's very formal.
I like that answer because there's, when I was in EFINA, I did the reports on the fintech landscape in Nigeria and Africa. And one of the things that came through from that report was innovation in Africa requires a physical digital mix.
Yep.
And you have a tablet or an app that you have agents use, and those agents have to be part of the local community, speak the language, and be familiar with the people that you want to onboard. Yep. And it just makes sense because it's riding on what you're saying, the communal aspect of doing business or existing in Africa. I really like that answer.
Yeah.
Last question. Finish this sentence. The future of African innovation is...
credit. You can tell that the only thing I think about is credit.
I can tell.
The future of innovation is credit. Yeah, I like all the payments because they build the rails for us to actually properly deploy credit. So from remittance, all those things like that too as well. But how do we then now start to take those money and move it from consumption, which is people using the money to survive, to people actually using the money to transact and build something. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to get rich, but it just means that they'll be able to sustain themselves too as well. So for me, the future is credit. And I think in the next 10 years, credit companies will win a lot. Those who know how to lend to the people that they call informal.
Yeah, I like that. Coming full circle.
Yeah.
Okay. Babajide, thank you so much. This has been an awesome episode. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Likewise.
And your career path has been one of self-awareness, I think also faith, but also a lot of intentionality around the kind of attitude that you need to have. I really appreciate it. We're wrapping up now, but I want to ask, for anyone out there trying to navigate their career, trying to come into the tech space, do you have any advice for them?
Focus on value. How do you deliver value? Money chases value. Don't chase money. Like I've moved for money. I've done all those things like that. They will say, it's comfortable. That's why I can say this thing. Yes. But truth of the matter is like focus on value. Where is your most value addition? Because when we say tech, everybody just thinks about that is software developers, but those guys only build the product.
Yeah.
Someone sells it. Someone ensures there's compliance for it. Someone registers the product. Someone markets the product. Someone ensures that the product is operating on a daily basis and doesn't break. Yeah. And so it's the engineers that spend that time building it. But, in technology, we need lawyers. We need operations people. We need procurement people too as well. We need a whole suite of people where we don't really need doctors. But guess what? Now we're even having doctors through telemedicine and all those things too as well in technology. So focus on value. Where can you add the most value in a technology company? Like think about it and start positioning yourself towards getting jobs in those areas too. I think that is a very important thing that people really need to know. And then while you focus on value, think about things on ownership. It's not negotiable. Excellence, it's not negotiable. Ability to problem solve, it's not negotiable, because that's the only way you can really move from I've seen people cross from being pharmacists to being software engineers, from lawyers to so many things. And the things they really possess are these three key things. So ownership, so we talked about ownership, we talked about problem solving, and we talked about excellence. They have those three things.
Guys, hope you're listening. This has been awesome, man. Babajide, thank you so much. Honestly, you drop gems. That's actually right. Just gems here and there, man. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me.
And to those who have listened to the end, thank you very much, and see you next time. Take care.